Hey guys, Jack here. We're in my aquaponics greenhouse, and there's going to be some major changes as we move through this year. For the early part of the year, pretty much everything's going to stay the way it is. I got too much going on this year to bite off what I want to do that I'm about to show you right now. I think it's going to make a lot more sense for me to phase it in. If you remember, my next big project is going to be a 12 by 12 timber frame greenhouse. It's going to be right over there in that area. That's going to be beautiful, and that's my main focus this year for the early part of the year. And the way I look at it, I got all summer until we get into winter to get what I want to talk to you about doing in there today done. And then going through next winter, I'm just going to go ahead and make, use all my production that I have available to me here. But some major changes are coming, so let's talk about what's going to happen and why. One of my key failure points has always been this connection here, running these wicking beds off this aquaponics system. So if you can see, there's pipes back there for those that are new to my channel, and all of those beds up on those racks are wicking beds, and they're what I call flow-through wicking beds. So the pipes bring water to the tank. We have a level set inside, and then they return down that return line and go back, so it's a constant loop. This presents a lot of potential points of failure, but the bigger problem is we just really wanted to do this when we designed this, and I didn't know much about aquaponics 3 years ago when we first put this system in. A friend of mine named David helped me design it, and we got excited about it. We really liked it, and I like the idea here. Don't get me wrong, I love the idea here. But, as many of you know, I live in a place where about less than a foot under there is slab rock. I mean, we're talking jackhammer for a day to get down another foot. At least a day. It's bad. And it's just what it made. The point here was we couldn't go with a low sump. So we ended up with these racks with these beds up really, really high. And even like what I grow mostly in here are peppers. These pepper plants, they get so large. They get 4 or 5 feet tall. They're up to the roof and putting things through it. There's peppers on the top of the thing by the middle of the summer. So what really needs is this all needs to come down and get lowered. The other thing is, we built this aquaponics system the way everybody does it. We built it with some big old 330 gallon IBCs. And if I had built this greenhouse, twice as big as it is, maybe this would work. But this is just really not an efficient use of space. So, my plan has been to go ahead and rip this all out, and that's going to happen. The question then became what to do with it. And the other question is, well, what do we do here? Let's start out with what's going to happen here. This is going to come out, and unless I figure out a place that I want to use it for some fish breeding projects or something like that, I'll probably sell this off. Or maybe find a worthy person who really deserves it to donate it to. That'll be the IBCs and the solid separator, and that'll be about it. Everything else I'll keep for my own use. I was thinking let's just make this a greenhouse. Just a regular greenhouse, but I love doing aquaponics, and I love having the ability to do aquaponics late in the season and very early in the season. I love everything I get out of it. So let's do aquaponics in here right. So the first thing that's going to happen is this Tough Tex that I do not recommend that comes from like Home Depot, Lowe's, is all coming off. Every bit of this green, and this is all coming out, completely gutted. Once it's completely gutted, I'll do what we should have done the first time. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to insulate all these solid walls. Then I'm going to figure out what we're going to put as a new cover on this greenhouse. I have a couple different options. I've been looking at the insulated poly panels. I've also been looking at this new film. It's a really thick film. It's supposed to have a 25-year warranty. A lot of people are using it and really like it. So the greenhouse gets reskinned. We are going to do it, though, so that in the summer, we will have the ability to completely open parts of this and get more airflow through here, because even right now, with the doors open and the windows open, it is 90 degrees in here, and it's about 75 outside. So this is really, really hot in the summer. I do have shade cloth to drop on it later in the season. It's custom fit for it. So everything's gutted. Now, the next thing we're going to do is, you guys have seen how I do my timber frame ponds. I'm basically do a tiny timber frame pond. That's actually going to be almost 400 gallons of water, but it'll be about 2 foot wide by about 12 feet long, built out of landscape timbers, and done with a pond liner. That's going to be incredibly cheap to do. You're talking all in under 200 bucks. No plumbing through it. It'll be low enough that everything can go out and return through the top. No penetrations, no bulkheads, no nothing. Then, something more conventional with aquaponics will be done. You know, your big 4-inch pipes going across the back wall for deep water, where you got your little cups and your pipes, and return in. One little pump to do that. Probably do something similar to Dutch buckets in the corners, one in each corner for some tomato plants. I don't need a lot of tomatoes in here. I grow a ton of tomatoes in there. Just be nice to have some season extended tomatoes in here growing with aquaponics. Probably do a strawberry tower on the side of each door. And then we've taken all this space back. All this space gets reclaimed. We still have the front. We'll redesign this with a shelving unit about right there so that we can have plants here. Plus we got my starter shelf up here. And I'll figure it out as we go. This is one of those things that once I gut this and I don't have a preconceived idea of what I'm trying to do out there, I can design this the way this should have been done in the first place. We'll be able to get all of the headers repainted. We'll get all of this roof painted and treated so that we don't have any problems. This is since it was interior, we didn't use pressure treated wood in here, so that's okay. But we've had some leaks and that's caused some issues. So when we get this completely redone, this is going to be really, really nice. And what that means is this concept here of pumping water out of here up to there is gone. In fact, right now, it's all shut down. I'm doing everything manually. I'm about to begin the conversion process in here. And what that means is I will no longer need to have these beds elevated. So all of these racks are coming out, and I'll have to find new homes or purposes for them. And all these beds are going on the ground. Now, that's not happening this year. It was just easier to go ahead and, I want to show you, man, we are banging on the planting, man. This is that red amaranth. I love this stuff in salads. I love to cook with it. We got some nasturtiums in here. Look at the peppers already. Already putting blossoms on. Some have already started to set fruit. And this will just be a blowing and going system this year. It'll produce mostly peppers, tomatoes, some greens and things like chives and stuff like that for us for this year. But next year, when we're planting in our spring, all of these beds will be on the ground. And we're gonna massively be able to expand how much production we get out of here. And here's how it's gonna work. And I'm gonna start the front side this year. It just so turns out that these spacers that I built into this system to reinforce the flooring are perfectly suited for a 100-gallon stock tank to sit just like that. So, the first section's a little smaller, it had to be. That's okay. We'll have a 100-gallon stock tank turn this way. At this end, same thing here. We'll have two like this, then we'll have a 100-gallon turn this way. Next one is turned this way, then two like that, then one like that, then two like that, and so on down to the end. So that basically each section will have 4 stock tanks out here. Then next year, or next season I should say, when these racks go away, this tank here drops down there and mimics this one. So you have 2 pointed this way. Your 2 in here will go this way, almost a keyhole pattern. And then your last one back in this corner this way. What that'll do is put 8 beds per section. 8 beds per section, where right now what we have is 3. Everything will be easier to work on. One of our problems here again is you get any kind of significant growth and you're to the roof. It is not desirable to be this high up in the air, especially when you're inside of a structure. So all these will go on the ground. As far as irrigation at that point, I'm gonna temp in a hose connection to this already plumbed system because it's already there this year, just for these guys, where you just come in and fill them up. As I build this in, I'm going to be putting a dual irrigation type system in. These will be built a lot like these. They don't need to be as complex because they don't need return lines or anything. But basically, those there are going to be wicking beds. They'll have a filler tube just like that one right there. Okay? And we'll have plumb where we can water those. Once we get kind of a schedule down, we can have all of them set. We can pop in a timer with a solenoid, you know, and once a day, they fill up for 5 minutes, never have to touch them. Just never have to touch them ever again. Can go on vacation, plants water themselves. As far as secondary though, I'm gonna bring in, and I haven't decided if I'm gonna use mist sticks or I'm gonna use shrub sprinkler heads or whatever. I'm also gonna have the ability to water from above. And the reason I want to do that is because, yes, once you get these things established, if you keep them full, you don't have to touch them, the plants do fine. When you come in here and do something like this, and you put these little light seeds down and they just are barely under the surface, and you're getting them to start, they need about 2 weeks of regular watering till they get their roots down into that zone. So by having the ability to surface water and subsurface water, we can throw things like that, because like maybe we'll have a tub. Maybe this will be a tub of carrot. What a great thing. With this many beds, we can have dedicated beds. There'll always be some companion planting, but maybe this becomes carrots. Carrots need to be where they can get some light, and they need to stay moist. So we can put our seed down, turn our mister on, run that thing twice a day on a timer, and then once everything's up, we can push our mulch around and just go to subsurface watering. How awesome is that? So that's how this system's gonna work out. And when I look at it now, it's what we should have done in the very first place. There's a couple reasons we didn't. One is we were married to this idea of a return system. The other thing was I had chickens in here with the quail. Now, if you have that bed planted full of food and there's a chicken in here, even a bantam chicken, it's gonna get up in there, scratch, eat, tear everything up. The quail, they just don't, occasionally one might get up on some stuff. They just don't really do it though. They pretty much stay on the ground, they're happy down there. I have one kink I gotta work out in this whole system, and it's not a big one. It's, you see that right there? That little hidey cubby hole, right? You see that? Right there? That's like a little tunnel in there. Well, those jerks, they like to lay eggs back in places like that. So I don't want them to be able to get in there. So what I'll probably use is just the 1/4-inch harbor cloth that's right there. I'll just attach it here somehow to keep them out, to make sure they can't get behind there. But I'm happy to let them, you know, where I can reach easily. They have these little cubbies and little places to break the wind and get shade, and they like little places to tuck in. I want to finish up today. I want to say something about quail and quail laying eggs. Everybody thinks these Aquaponics quail just lay eggs randomly everywhere. Well, why? Everybody keeps them in cages and they just lay an egg. Well, you know, if you're in a 2-by-2-foot square, where are you going to lay an egg? Wherever you happen to be, right? My quail in here pick spots and they lay eggs. Now, occasionally you'll find a random one like this, but what we usually find, and I've already picked them up today, so we don't have a lot to pick up, maybe later. Like I'll be back in this corner here, and there'll be 10 eggs in one spot. They absolutely do lay a lot like chickens do. Maybe not as consistently, but pretty much once they have a place they like, they'll lay there. So I just thought I'd share that with you guys today. I think this is going to be a really incredible system as it converts. And while I won't get to doing this year, all through spring and early summer, I'm going to be working on this front side. And since this is going to come down anyway, I see no reason to rebuild this tank. So this tank will come down, this rack will come out. About the only thing I'll probably do, or won't do this year, is the ones this way near the door, because they'll come a little bit to overlap the door. I don't mind that, but I don't want it when I'm still moving stuff in and out of here, the big tanks, and doing the construction, and eventually having to get these things out, right? These racks out. So, love to hear your thoughts on my plan. I can't see how it's not just a massive amount of production increase. Again, right now we have 3 beds per section, and we're going to go to having 8 beds per section, 24 grow beds, and I'll be looking for sales on these things. Anyway, guys, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. You can just click the subscribe button. Make sure to hit the little alarm bell, and you'll get an email every time I publish something new. And check out my podcast if you like the stuff I do on YouTube. You just might enjoy it. About 200,000 people a day download the podcast. You can find that at tspc.com. We are on Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher and all that other good stuff too.